Cognitive science excels at solving the mechanical problems of the brain. Given enough time and computing power, we can map exactly how a physical brain processes data, integrates sensory input, and commands the body to move. But knowing the machinery leaves a significant question unanswered. We still have to explain why this mechanical processing produces a subjective, internal feeling. We could theoretically process all that information without any inner light at all. Thomas Nagel's famous 1974 essay highlighted the unquantifiable feeling of existing. For any conscious entity, there is a specific experience of being that thing from the inside, a private quality that measurements cannot capture. Current neuroscience describes firing patterns, yet it struggles to explain why those patterns feel like something. This gap between the physical brain and our subjective feeling remains the most persistent mystery in the study of human existence. We understand the specific experience by its contrast. You recognize the color red because you can distinguish it from its absence. The before state defines the after state, giving the experience its boundaries and meaning. Applying this logic to consciousness reveals a paradox. From the inside of your own mind, you can never observe what it is like to lack consciousness. You are always already within the state you are trying to define. Common examples like deep sleep or fainting fail to provide this contrast. You never actually perceive the gap of unconsciousness. You only experience the sudden onset of sensory input upon waking. The boundary itself remains unobserved. Without an internal contrast state, the concept of consciousness could not have originated from looking inward. We must have acquired the framework from the outside. If humans could not discover the absence of consciousness within themselves, they must have observed it elsewhere. The observation of death provides the necessary contrast. Watching a living entity become inanimate suggests that an invisible, internal spark has departed. Our ancestors likely observed this change in others and reasoned backward to their own experience. Linguistic history supports this. The oldest English words like gewar, the root of aware, described outwardly observable watchfulness. The Latin root for consciousness, conscious, meant shared knowledge or witnessing another's deeds. The concept pointed at others before describing our private theater of experience. If consciousness began as an observation of others, we have to find the mechanism that made it possible. We need to explain how internal states were communicated long before the invention of language. By default, an organism's internal states are hidden. A parent has no direct access to an offspring's hunger, and a rival cannot see an opponent's fear. This invisibility creates a significant disadvantage for social survival. Biology solved this through expressed emotion. A grimace, a cry of pain, or bared teeth form a pre-linguistic broadcast layer, a communication system designed to transmit survival data to other organisms. Empathy serves as the receiver for this broadcast. It is an automatic cognitive process that takes an external behavior, like a posture of defeat, and models the internal state behind it. You see the behavior and feel a shadow of the state in yourself. This broadcast receiver system exists across the animal kingdom. Emotional contagion appears in rodents, elephants, and even zebrafish. These species read and react to the internal states of others without any known concept of consciousness. Primate evolution refined this process with mirror neurons. These are cells that fire both when an animal performs an action and when it observes another performing that same action. This hardware allows for a more sophisticated internal model of another's experience. The empathic modeling of other animals came first. We spent millions of years inferring the interiority of others before we ever turned that modeling capacity inward and gave the result a name: consciousness. Our biological history offers a new way to look at the hard problem. We can finally ask why a physical account of the brain seems to leave out the quality of experience. The ancient broadcast system of expressed emotion evolved with a strict bandwidth limitation. A cry of pain conveys a broad, urgent alert. Something is wrong, but it cannot transmit the high-resolution qualitative character of the sensation itself. Because we built our concept of consciousness on top of this coarse-grained empathic channel, the concept lacks the resolution to capture fine internal details. We infer that an internal state exists, but we cannot access the specific quality of that state through the original channel. The hard problem arises from a structural limitation in our conceptual tools. We are using a low-bandwidth survival mechanism to try to explain a high-resolution biological reality, creating an artificial gap between the two. If consciousness is a constructed label, we have to consider the ethical implications. We need to know if this framework changes how we value the lives of animals or infants who cannot use the concept. We can preserve our ethical standards by distinguishing consciousness from sentience. Sentience is the pre-reflective biological capacity to feel pain and distress. This capacity exists independently of any socially constructed category. Our ethical focus should shift from the abstract word consciousness to observable biological sentience. We value life based on its capacity for suffering and comfort, rather than its ability to participate in a metaphysical framework. The physical experience of life is real and measurable. But the impossible boundary we drew around it, the hard problem that seemed to defy physics, was an artifact of our own definitions. We can finally stop looking for a mystery we created ourselves.